we know the Republican Party is not going to do anything, okay, in terms of legislatively. They're going to do, it's all going to be hearings. Meanwhile, what the Biden administration is going to do is most of their moves are going to be, through agencies. So you will see the right wing phase up their antenna for these type of things. This is, we saw it with light bulbs back in the day. We saw it with shower heads. We saw it with toilet flows. You may not remember any of this because after it all blows over, industry completely adjusts and it's much better. I mean, we see this with every product that we put out there. CAFE standards. Cars need to be more fuel efficient. There's complaints, and then all of a sudden the cars figure out, we can make them much more fuel efficient. And then everybody's happy.
The car companies literally framed Nader for prostitution because of his efforts to try to get seatbelts put in cars.
Yeah, I mean, on and on. They do this with Mr. Potato Head. They do this with Dr. Seuss. They do it with M&Ms. They're doing it with gas stoves. They're finding these sort of like cultural problems, but gas stoves are important. And here is they frame it as one thing. But listen to this conversation about the idea that Xbox has default settings that will turn off an Xbox if nobody's using it after a certain period of time. This is like literally like the introduction of automatic headlights going off when you turn your car off.
That's all I'm saying.
Xbox has also announced they're going woke too, because of climate change, that they're adding a new feature to their default settings. So if you own an Xbox, you can upload this new program and it will turn off after so long to save the environment, the power. And also they're saying the energy saving shutdown feature is going to have a slower boot time. Ted Cruz writes on Twitter, first gas stoves, then your coffee, now you're gunning for my Xbox.
Isn't it crazy, though? Like, when we were kids, you were a rebel if you had, like, a leather jacket and a pack of cigarettes. Now you have, like, a full-powered Xbox and you're eating pizza rolls on a gas stove. I mean, it's crazy what they're doing, but we understand what this is. It's not that it's actually going to offset emissions, okay? The level of reduction is infinitesimal, but they're trying to recruit your kids into climate politics at an earlier age. Make them climate conscious now.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. You're right. They're going after the children.
Of course they are. But again, what's the point of video games? It's for kids to be kids. Now you sit down and pick up a controller and they're like, by the way, the world's on fire.
Can you just pause it real quick?
You know what I mean? You just want to play the game.
Oh, sorry. I just want to say most gamers aren't kids. Most gamers are between 18 and 36.
Okay. So aside from the completely factual errors, just to contemplate this dynamic, I will tell you something. How much my kid will notice if the Xbox turns off. Like, it's like, I'll tell you one thing that my kid has never done. He's never said, why does my computer go to sleep after I've been watching it? Or why does my iPad, after a certain period of time, close? Just because, why wouldn't it? Like, why does the light turn off when we shut the refrigerator door?
Yeah.
This is how desperate they are to create this sense that they're being oppressed. And is there any more to this?
Well, you can just finish the video.
Think of that. You're right. They're going after the children.
Of course they are. But again, what's the point of video games? It's for kids to be kids. Now you sit down and pick up a controller and they're like, by the way, the world's on fire. You know what I mean? You just want to play the game.
Yeah, so not what happens. This is a feature found in a menu that you have to go into the deep menus to enable yourself. That allows you to not only save the environment, but also maybe your energy bills that don't have you running your Xbox at all times. And the only difference you would notice is instead of it starting up basically immediately, you have to wait 20 seconds for the startup.
And understand when they talk about this is just to save people money on their electricity and to save electricity. Like, why wouldn't you want that? When they talk about the gas stoves, they're trying to turn it into an environmentalist type of situation. But it's really about the health of children, which they must know. They just don't care because they can use it as an opportunity to talk about how, like, government's trying to take things away from you again. Government is also trying to take away more things from you folks, and I want to just put you on notice. The FDA the Food and Drug Administration from the federal government on Tuesday, just yesterday, proposed new rules. These are maximum limits for the amount of lead that is found in baby foods, like mashed fruits and vegetables and dry cereals. Can you believe our government is doing this?
Sounds kind of authoritarian.
There was lead in our food 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. There was lead in our food, 50 years ago. Maybe not much further than that, because, of course, we put the lead in the ground by either emitting it through our leaded gasoline or other heavy metals that we may have used, things like arsenic and stuff like that, to as pesticides. But this is a part of American culture. And they are ripping it away from you because these libs want to control everything you do. They want to control the heavy metals that you put in your mouth.
In your
through baby
mouth,
food.
yeah.
In your baby's mouth, right? Like these are our children, not the government's children.
Yeah, parents should be able to decide for themselves.
And apparently there's been so-called years of studies that have revealed that many processed products contain levels known to pose a risk of neurological and developmental impairment.
Is that important?
Yeah. Well, that's what that means is they're not going to be able to brainwash you into some type of CRT, environmental CRT
zombie.
Woke zombie.
You'll just be prone to violence and have a short temper.
Exactly. And this is what they do. They prey first on let children be children. This is aimed at foods for children under 2. All they want to do is eat.
They want to get to the kids that young.
They want to eat. But the government is standing in the way between you giving them lead-laden foods and what they want.
The government is basically forcing parents to say, hey, baby, America is such a bad place because lead was in your food.
Now, right now, these do not address grain-based snacks that have also been found to contain high levels of heavy metals. But they'll come for that next. This is slippery slope.
Yep.
And they don't limit other metals like cadmium that has been found in infant foods in the past, but they're going to come for it. Big anti-cadmium is going to come for this. And of course, Jane Houlihan, who is the director of Healthy Babies Bright Futures, a non-profit, says that the guidelines are disappointing. It doesn't go far enough to protect babies from neurodevelopmental damage from lead exposures. Of course, she was probably in favor of masking.
Yeah, that sounds like a globalist.
Lead is in almost every baby food we tested, and the actions levels the FDA have set will influence almost none of that food.
I mean, when do we hear both sides about what the positives of lead being in the baby food is?
I mean, it was good enough for our parents.
Yeah.
The agency estimated that the proposed levels could reduce the dietary exposure to lead for some young children by about 25%. Ugh. More nanny state.
Yeah.
In 2020, the FDA set limits for inorganic arsenic in rice cereal for infants, and in April of last year, it proposed maximum levels for lead in juice. Yeah. And of course, much harder to get leaded juice now.
Yeah. It's like Stalin moving on Tito.
In comments submitted to the FDA on its broader plan, Gerber wrote in 2021 that reducing toxins was difficult because plants absorbed them from the soil as they grew. Lead is ubiquitous in the environment from decades of unregulated use in gasoline for cars, farm machinery, aircraft, and paint. So that you understand this, if it's in the ground, most of these heavy metals have either long half-lives or no half-lives at all. Not quite no, but for all intents and purposes, in terms of our lives. And so arsenic was used, for instance, to, as a pesticide in orchards. And the problem is it's still in the ground. Now, I don't think arsenic doesn't, for the most part, does not get uptake by fruit, but rice it does. And so you need to know where your stuff was grown. That's a big part of this. And so they can grow it in different places, but Gerber doesn't want to do that because they get it cheaper from some places than other. And if they have to
They get it cheaper from the places that put arsenic in it?
They don't put arsenic in
or
it.
It leaches arsenic.
It leaches in. It basically, the plants uptake it. There are different plants that uptake these things and absorb these things more than others. Part of it has to do like sort of the growing conditions, water with rice paddies. And so it's much more likely to get uptaken. But it's clearly wherever they're buying these vegetables from are in soil that has been tainted by these heavy metals. And make no mistake about it, like as adults, we're getting all this stuff. It's just that you don't have the neurological sensitivity. We have some, and it becomes a bit of a problem, I think, with Alzheimer's is probably a function of a lot of these heavy metals. There's data that shows that if you take like if you do saunas on a regular basis and sweat out a lot, that it will reduce the incidence of Alzheimer's. And the speculation is that you're getting some of this stuff out of your system. But the bottom line is this is no different from the gas stoves. It's no different from the gas stoves. Burning these fossil fuels, put the stuff in the air, it gets absorbed into the bloodstream of young children. It affects their respiratory development. And maybe in some instances, their neurological development. Maybe it creates other problems.
It's like they're noise canceling with the fake anger, what the real anger should be. Like, we should be angry that we didn't know about this stuff about gas ovens or stoves for a long time.
And I got news for you. We probably did.
Right.
Somebody did.
We should be angry about this baby food stuff, and instead we have these fake sort of it's like the inverse of the rage that should be projected.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I wonder why Tucker Carlson isn't saying like, "Oh, it's just the culture war." It's the culture war.
But understand, that's what this is about. They're doing the bidding of these industries, where the question isn't like, oh my God, how could you be selling this stuff for years? We need to take action. And it becomes like, how can you prevent us from selling this stuff?
Yep.
This is no different than the stoves. No different. In this instance, it's just like science has shown us what this stuff does to us. And it is these corporations, they are pushing the externalities on to us to make profits. It's cheaper for me to grow my vegetables in this area that has tainted soil, and I don't want to change that. And the cost, well, it's that we're lead poisoning kids. And it is impacting their neurodevelopment. And that, aside from like just the human suffering that's associated with that, schools are going to have to pay for this. Public schools, public health is going to have to pay for this. Things like crime and violence. And we're all, as a society, absorbing these costs. These are externalities. Costs that if they were absorbed by the production of this stuff in a way that wouldn't push this cost onto the society, they would just make less profits. That's what this is about. That's what it's about with gas stoves. That's what it's about with the lead. That's what it's about with,
anything Al Gore does.
On and on and on. Climate change, all of it. All of it. If you want to talk about the dynamic between corporations and, you could even argue it is a function of like the story of antitrust that we talked about today. All of these problems, diminishment of music, the cost associated to society in both in terms of like consumer costs, but also sort of like in terms of having a richer lives culturally. And then the diminishment of democracy. That is all these externalities, costs borne by society for profits that are privatized. That's the dynamic that's at work here. And so when they complain about the stoves, know that they're complaining about the lead that is poisoning babies, just because that becomes much more, it's just a little bit less sexy for them to talk about.
Yeah, you can't quite do that.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to get with the power save feature on the Xbox is really going to do it for them, but it's just one more opportunity for them to talk about that. It's insane. They're insane. They're insane.